Okay, guys. So at this point, we're supposed to be talking about the 0102 season. Yeah, 2001 2002. Yeah. But then things get a bit convoluted because usually how scheduling works, especially now that during this time period there would have been an international competition, is that there would be the PSL the season begins, right? Then December, January would be like Afcon or whatever, COSAFA, one of those two. And then as it ends in February, then the league continues to the end of the season. And this season specifically, we had both the PSL season 2001 and 2002, and then Afcon 2002, and then the World Cup. So you would think I'd just cover it like that, but then things get a bit convoluted because they get a bit messy because of Carlos Queiroz. Now, the Carlos Queiroz saga is an interesting thing that we'll get into, but I'm going to break down, for sake of clarity, I'm going to break down the next segments into four pieces, following the events. Basically, we're going to start off with Afcon 2002, right? Then we're going to go into the 2001-2002 season of the PSL. Then after that, we're going to talk about the Carlos Queiroz Safa thing going on there, and then we can talk about the World Cup, you see now. But for record's sake, let it be known that the official timeline is PSL 2001-2002 season, first half, and then Afcon 2002, then the second half of the season, then Carlos Queiroz left in March, Joe Masona came in, and then we head on to the World Cup. That is the official timeline. But, just to put context to the whole situation at hand, we're going to start off with Afcon 2002, go into the season, and then talk about the World Cup. So, yeah, I'm glad I could explain that, and let's get into it, Moose. Now, the Afcon in 2002 was held in Mali from the 19th of January till the 10th of February. And I know some of you guys are going to be picking up why are you mentioning dates? Because you don't really do that. It's supposed to be an informal covering of SA football. But I noticed recently that I'm getting facts and dates kind of mixed up. So even though I want to keep it as entertaining as possible, entertainment should not get in the way of the facts and the truth, you see. So going forward, I'm gonna try my best to mention dates, mention specifications, and when I'm quoting or citing articles, I'll mention that as well. So as I said, the Afcon was held from the 19th of January till the 10th of February. The team was coached by Carlos Queiroz, the man of the moment, who locally, he never really coached in SA, but he had a bit of a rapport overseas as he was he coached in Portugal, the under-20 squad and the national team, and then Benfica. Then he went to the States, and in the States he did this thing, he drew up an idea, a blueprint going forward for how soccer should be developed in the States. And I think that's what caught the eye of Safa. But most notably, one of his biggest things was the gig he got after Safa, which was the job as an assistant manager for Alex Ferguson during his incomparable reign at Man U. I'm not a Man U fan, fuck Man U, but hey, he killed it, I'm not gonna lie. So initially, Safa brought in Carlos Queiroz as a sort of technical director to develop and grow SA soccer for the foreseeable future. Technically speaking, Queiroz became Bafana coach in 2000 after Trot had left the team after the World Cup, the Afcon. And Queiroz led the team to both Afcon and the World Cup qualification. Me myself, I didn't see any Carlos Queiroz teams growing up, but from what we can see of his subsequent work in his career going forward, like coaching Portugal and coaching Real Madrid, and what else did he coach? Iran and Colombia. I got the impression that he was one of these coaches, like who knew soccer from a technical perspective, but he struggled to communicate those ideas to his players. You see, have you ever met a guy, like, let's use a practical example. Have you ever met a guy who knows something on a technical level, right? But when you ask him to explain it, and he tries to explain it, it makes no sense. That is Carlos Queiroz. Plus, it didn't help that according to most first-hand accounts, like the guy was a prickly personality. But we'll get there, don't worry. This guy, he has a lot of stunts by the sounds of things. So for the Afcon squad, okay, these are the following guys he chose. Goalkeepers, he chose Hans Vonk, Brian Baloyi, Andre Arendse. Recognizable names, since they were at Afcon 2000, except for Brian Baloyi. But yeah, Hans Vonk at this point, Hans Vonk is there. Me personally speaking, Hans Vonk was there mostly because he's an overseas player. During this time, South had this weird thing going on, like that they pick overseas players because they think they're playing overseas, the quality is better and all of that, which I guess would make sense. But that doesn't mean like they're better than the players playing locally. So to me, Hans Vonk was he was Calvin Marlin, man. Like he's like Calvin Marlin and Andre Arendse, bro. Like I don't see why you wouldn't take Andre Arendse or Calvin Marlin. Plus, during that time, there was that thing going on where Safa was beefing with overseas players. But we'll get there. So that was another reason why, like, a lot of the overseas players, their selections, while it makes sense, it's a bit weird, given, like, what was going on. Brian Baloyi, Spider-Man is quality, bro. Like, Spider-Man, up until Kune came along, I would say Spider-Man was probably the best keeper I've ever seen in my life. In SA, up until Kune. Andre Arendse, yeah, like I said, he's like Calvin Marlin, bruh. So he was a good, sturdy keeper. He wasn't as flashy as Spider-Man, but he had the basics down. He could pull a reflex here and there. Yeah, he was okay, bruh. As for the defense, Queiroz selected OJ, Bradley Cornell, David Ganamea, Matthew Booth, Pierre Issa, Aaron McGuinn, and Frank Schumann. So OJ was quality. Everybody knew that. OJ was quality. And this was his breakout season, bro. Like, he was killing it, bro. OJ Maviza. He was a superstar. Bradley Cornell was one of those defenders, I can't really call him a defender, bro, because he was one of those, okay, in today's soccer, he'd be a wingback. Bombarding up the left wing, proper crosses, that sort of thing, He wasn't really that much of a defender. He was more of a left midfielder playing as a defender. He could defend, but like I'm saying, he was more of an attacker, you get me? David Ganamea was more of a solid defender than Bradley Cornell, but he could do the same thing as Bradley Cornell, Matthew Booth was a tall guy. What I will say about him is he had better ball control than most tall guy defenders that we had, Frank Schumann, I can't really remember, I'm not gonna lie to you. And then Pierre Issa and Aaron McGuinn. Yeah. I've been saying we'll get back to that. I think it's time we got to it, bro. Like, you see these two guys? Hey, yeah, like, I think the best way to describe them is, like, I'll just use like an analogy. You can spend the years of your life building your reputation, but then, like, there'll be a couple of moments that will stand out in people's heads that for all the good work that you've done, people will still be like, But you did do that one time, bruh, you know. That's Pierre Issa and Aaron going. Pierre Issa. I remember this guy. I was watching highlights of, was it France 98? I think it was France 98 against France. This guy, 2 own goals. And you're just there, you're like, yeah, okay, Pierre Issa. I think it was 2 goals and a red card, bruh. Like, yeah, he was there. He pulled one of those off, bruh. And I get it, it's France, Henry's killing you, Trezeguet's killing you. Yeah, it is what it is. But Lucas wasn't doing that shit. He was playing fine, bruh. It was just you, Pierre Issa. Aaron McGuinn. Yo, this guy. Like, now, I'm never going to be the type to like hate on a player, you know, because like, you still have to be, let's get this straight, bro. You have to be very talented to be a soccer player, bro. Keep in mind, in the league right now, there's what? 16 teams, right? 16 teams, let's average it to 30 players per team. 30, 40. Okay, let me get a calculator, because like I'm not that smart, bro. No, wait, actually, like the league only allows like maybe 20 to 30 players, if I remember, per team. So let's do 30 times 16, give or take. It's 480 players. Rough estimate, of course. There is 480 players in a population of maybe 10, 20 million that wanted to be soccer players that we're speaking of. Okay. That is like less than 10%. That's less than 5% if I think of it, bro. Less than 5% of like the eligible population, people that are eligible to play soccer. Less than fucking 2%, bro. That's how good these guys are. And of that 480 estimate, let's cut it down counting foreign players. Let's just count it as 400. Of that 400, only 23 players get to make the national team. So let's get this straight. You have to be incredibly talented to make it as a national team soccer player. Now, having said that, I'm judging you based on your peers. So if you are trash compared to your peers, then hey, bruh, like I'm not gonna lie, bruh, like yeah. Aaron, like as I said, bruh, like Aaron he was a solid defender, bruh. Like yeah, he was okay, bruh. I didn't see anything about him that was better than the local players, but you know, they tout his leadership and all of that, which is okay, I guess, you know. But when I saw Aaron play, especially the later years from 2010 going forward, oh, bruh, it was one of two things. When you're watching Bafana with Aaron versus another team, it was either 11 versus 10 or 12 versus 10. Because either he'd be doing something to help those guys unintentionally, or he'd have been sent off. I remember this one game. It was a COSAFA Cup game. Aaron, SA versus Rwanda. World Cup qualifier, COSAFA Cup, one of those. This guy scores the goal. It was his 50th game, yeah, his 50th cap, 50th, around there. Scored the goal, right? Goes on to score an own goal. That is Aaron going in a nutshell. Like for the national team, that's Aaron, bro. The game then in EPL, when he was playing for Portsmouth, no, Blackburn, sorry, scored an own goal and got sent off, all in the same game. That's why I say like these two, bruh, Aaron and Pierre Issa, like I'm not going to discredit them because they have done good, like they have played well. There are many occasions. It's just that these occasions stick out more often than the ones that they did well, you see, and it's an unfortunate thing, bruh, but it is what it is. Okay. Now, as we're going into midfield, squad was as follows. It was Macbeth, Quentin Fortune, Rastaman Tawongomeni, Bennett Nguni, Dylan Shepherd, Deldron Buckley, and Eric Tinkler. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. But maybe Rastaman. What an inspiring midfield, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I think, once again, I must reiterate, there was this thing going on back in the day. So I've heard this weird thing going on with overseas players. And maybe they thought they were better players because they were playing overseas, but yeah, we'll get to that when we talk about the World Cup. We'll talk more in detail about that. Strike force was Bartlett, Bradley Overs, Susu, Nomvete, and Benny McCarthy. They have no complaints, bro. All of them were prop. All of them were prop. Okay, so Bafana was drawn in a group with Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Morocco, and finished top of the group with 1 win and 2 draws. They got into the quarterfinals, unfortunately faced Mali, Frederick Kanute at the time, and they got knocked out. Now keep in mind, quarterfinal finish is still good, all things considered. But the glow of the national team had begun to fall off. Because remember, 96 they won, 98 runners-up, 2000 third place. And now they got to the quarters. Safa was keeping record of all of these things. And they were thinking to themselves, okay, we'd hunted this guy to come here and take control of SA football for the next 10, 20 years, right? And at his first tournament, this was the showing. This isn't good. Now, I personally think this is where things between Carlos Queiroz and Safa began becoming spicy nyan. But we'll come back to that after the season. We'll talk more in detail about that. For now, let's get into the 01-02 season.